Interviews are the easiest way to get a good grasp on someone's personality, but what happens when you take it too far? I'm your host Yusuf, and these are the top 10 chilling interviews with convicts. Make sure to subscribe and ring that bell to get notified whenever we upload a new video. Anyways, let's get an interview. At number 10, Charles Manson. The gold standard for Manson media misadventures has to be that time Geraldo Rivera sat down with the man himself back in 1988. Things start off innocent enough, with Manson stating his desire to end 50 million people and proclaiming a dictator was only trying to bring order to the world.
You want to kill 50 million people?
Well, that's just a drop in the bucket to what's really coming.
But it's not long before Chucky Boy starts getting fairly belligerent, at one point asking the interviewer how he would like it if he hopped over there and beat the dog poo out of him. After that, Manson goes on a long tirade about how much he hates Susan Atkins, his admiration for Bing Crosby, his personal stabbing technique, he claims he cuts a little but has never stuck it in, why a smoky substance should be legal, and how his exploits in the 60s came this close to resurrecting Jesus. And for that grand finale, he claims Ronald Reagan personally planted evidence on him and tells Geraldo he likes his boots. I'd be terrified if I were him. At number 9, Jeffrey Dahmer. In this interview, Dahmer shows just how crazy he is. In an interview with Inside Edition, which first appeared in 1993, Dahmer discusses his modus operandi, or method of operation, in an extremely calm way. He describes how he got a surge of energy whenever he experienced sawing off limbs in his grandmother's basement, and says it was nearly euphoric. He tells the interviewer that he took photos of the deceased to preserve their physical beauty. He then explains how he started having fantasies about executing people when he was very young, then explains lethargically how a human heart tastes. Oh, and he brought a human head to work one day, just because he could. At number 8, Ted Bundy. Just hours before Ted Bundy was executed in 1989, he sat down for a final interview with Focus on the family founder James Dobson. Bundy, who confessed to ending the lives of 30 women, but his total removal count may exceed 100 victims, used the TV time to explain away his gruesome misdeeds on, what else, watching too much adult films. Instead of taking responsibility for his own actions, Bundy played Dobson, considered by many to be the father of modern-day conservative evangelical movement, like a fiddle, claiming the sinister X-rated entertainment literally possessed him and drove him to an insane urge to end lives. Number 7, Richard Ramirez. In the mid-1980s, Richard Ramirez terrorized Southern California with a string of gruesome home invasion executions. After ending 13 people, the so-called Night Stalker was sentenced to execution, which in his case came in the form of succumbing to a terminal illness while waiting on the to execute list in 2013. In a rare interview with Inside Edition, Ramirez smiles like a maniac when the interviewer asks him why he felt the need to break into people's houses and beat the tenants to their demise with tire irons, aloofly stating, "No comment, I cannot answer at this time." At number 6, John Wayne Gacy. John Wayne Gacy sat down with reporter Walter Jacobson for an extremely rare interview. His intent? Well, he wanted to let the world know that he was framed. In the feeble attempt to garner himself a new trial before his date with the lethal injection needle, Gacy proceeded to spit out one lie after the other, stating, among other brass-balled mistruths, that he had undergone 5 hours of truth serum assisted lie detector tests and he didn't believe in physically punishing disobedient children, proving himself to be the absolute least qualified person in human history to ever provide legal defense. Gacy at one point slips up during the interview, telling the interviewee that one of his victims was, and I quote, "not one that I executed." Alas, you can't slight Gacy's quick wit. At number 5, Stephen McDaniel. Compared to the rest of the heavy hitters on this list, Stephen McDaniel is definitely a lightweight. Still, he's worthy of inclusion on the list because, unlike everyone else on this countdown, he had the honor of being interviewed live by a television news crew before he was convicted of anything, or even arrested for that matter. Alas, it was during that interview that McDaniel found out that police had discovered the remains for his neighbor, which he executed, and you can practically pinpoint the moment of the video in which his mask of sanity shatters into a million billion pieces. Shortly after the interview aired, McDaniel confessed to executing his neighbor. Following a plea bargain, he was sentenced to life in prison for his grisly doings. At number 4, Ed Kemper. Kemper sent at least 10 individuals to their graves, including his mother and both paternal grandparents, and earned the nickname the Co-Ed Butcher due to his predilection for targeting female college students in California. Believed to have an IQ in the genius range, you can certainly tease out the distressing coherence from the confirmed cannibal in this 1991 interview, in which he lays out precisely how and why he turned to executing strangers as a recreational activity, describing how he used to drive around picking up hitchhikers as practice for disarming soon-to-be victims. Terrifying. Number 3, Gary Ridgway. The name Gary Ridgway may not ring a bell at first. That's primarily because he's better known as the Green River Executioner, who between 1982 and 1998 removed at least 4 dozen women in the Pacific Northwest, although he confessed to 70 and may be responsible for 90 plus. In this undated interview, presumably it happened somewhere between his arrest in 2001 and his record-breaking 49 counts multiple executions conviction in 2003, Ridgway spent a majority of his time talking about how mean and spiteful his mother was, which he said convinced him into stabbing his schoolmates and torturing small animals in his youth. At number 2, Otis Toole. Colloquially known as the Jacksonville Cannibal, Otis Toole is probably best known for 2 things. First, his chummy relationship with fellow serial executioner Henry Lee Lucas, and being officially named as the man who abducted, removed, and decapitated the son of America's Most Wanted host, John Walsh. While Toole bragged to officials about ending the lives of scores of victims, he was only charged with 2 slangs, with another 4 executions added to his mega super duper life sentence in 1991. In this interview from 1993, the man who fancied himself some arson alongside his grave robbing begins by talking about his pyromaniac desire to watch an entire city burn.
A power movie.
And finally, at number 1, Eileen Wuornos. Eileen Wuornos is the infamous Florida street worker who over the course of 2 years shot and executed 7 men. In this interview recorded just hours before she received the lethal injection in 2002, Wuornos wastes no time at all as she starts claiming that she's been subject to supersonic weaponry torture since the late 1990s. Then she says the prison was intentionally giving her food poisoning and helicopters were chasing her before she was even arrested for her string of executions. Then she says she can't wait to pass away because she'll be beamed up Star Trek style to explore the cosmos, and that she feels sorry for us because we're all going to get nuked by a comet in 2019. Clearly, she was wrong. Thanks for watching, leave a like and comment if you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you next time on Crime Time.